What? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live with Dr. Henri Dallies, and we're here. Uh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and preparing so much
Thanks for
for us.
having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would love to just open the floor up to you and tell us about your story. You're a veteran in the profession, and you came from Europe all the way to the USA to learn about chiropractic. Is that the story?
Through a few detours, yes. And thank you for being so diplomatic there, Dalton. You're saying I'm a veteran. I'm old. Yes, I am. So, um, so yes, I've been practicing for now 35 years. So, but this was not my initial calling, if you will. Um, I always knew that I wanted to. Early on in my life, I always knew that I wanted to help people, but I never knew how. And um, and so yes, I am a French national from the southwestern part of France, between Bordeaux and Toulouse, in the southern Bordeaux wine region. If you like wine, you
Yeah.
do. And I wouldn't be a good Frenchman if I didn't, right? And but so my story comes kind of from the wayside. I had a diving board injury when I was 8. Hit my head hard,
Mm.
and age 10, I developed migraine headaches. And so, if you ever had a migraine before, and I hope you never do, your headache is in sync with your heartbeat. That's what they call it, throbbing headache, right? And so, well, I had one beautiful episode of those per week since age 10.
Mm.
So you try to figure out when you were 10 years old, and go through your teenage years like that. And so, you don't want to see light, you don't want to hear noise, you don't want to smell food.
Right.
You know how that goes, right? And
Yeah.
you just stop in your tracks. And we guys, we have a pain threshold that's much lower than the ladies, so we're like, oh, I can't function. So anyway, and and so, but if you start looking at how things affect your life, we call that the I like to call that in my office the need behind the need. It's not just the fact that you have a headache. It's not the fact that you can function. It's the fact that what can you not do because of what you have, or because of what you're suffering from. So, um, what happens if a migraine episode happens to you on a Saturday? Well, you lost half your weekend. And
Yeah.
as a teenager, that's not fun. What happens if you did a sleepover with a bunch of friends, and they all came to your house and you got a migraine? What do you do, right? But what happens if you have an episode on a Tuesday and it happens to be finals week, and now you don't get to take the final in high school? And so, what happens? But the problem is in France, where I'm from, we don't do makeup exams. You either take the exam or you're done.
Right.
And on top of that, in France, we don't go by semester like we do here in the United States. We go by years. If you don't take the final, you flunk the class. Or if you flunk the class, you repeat the year. So I'm very proud to say that I had to prop quotations. I'm very proud to say I had to repeat 12th grade, my last year of high school, very humbly, because you always look at the kids on the 11th grade like, oh, they're the little pet squeaks, and excuse me for my,
Yeah.
yeah. But and now suddenly you're with them, so very humbling. Um, Imagine you're about to get married, and you get an episode like that. So what do you do?
Right.
You
Is that
pump
what happened to you?
you pump yourself full of meds, and you hope somebody took a video, right?
Dang.
But you don't remember half of it.
Huh.
So my parents, wonderful people that they are, and I love them to death. They didn't take me to just different specialists. They took me to different countries to find out an answer to my headaches and my affliction,
Yeah.
with no avail. I mean, I remember being in front of a humongous machine about half of the size of this room that I'm in, and it had two little portholes. And when you look at it, you saw two clowns. And the goal was you had to cross your eyes enough that you could get the clouds to get together. They thought I had a lazy eye and that was causing my migraines. As you can see, it was a very archaic approach, and there were many different ones after that. Um, to no avail. So I went through middle school, I went through high school, still have my migraines, and I suffer, and I adapted, and you learn to live with it. Well, you don't really learn to live with it; you just kind of take it and bear it. So my parents offered me upon finishing high school, to come to the United States to learn English and to continue an engineering career, which is what my interest was. I didn't say my passion, my interest.
Yeah.
And I wanted to follow in father's footsteps, kind of thing, the typical story of father son kind of thing. And still have my migraines. I had a beautiful little personal pharmacy to have to how to keep things comfortable, or at least tolerable.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, I'm in Florida, and as they say, curiosity killed the cat. I hear migraines, chiropractic migraines. I don't even know how to spell the word, but I said, let's see what this thing has to say,
Right.
And I go see this chiropractic lady, who proceeds to do some kind of an instrument check on my neck, which I learned later on that it was a neurocalometer, an NCM. She takes films on my neck, x-rays. So if whoever says that you don't need x-rays to figure out the problem, I would disagree. It certainly helped me. And by golly, she mushes on my neck. And I'm going, lady, well, 3 months later, I haven't had an episode yet.
Huh.
And I'm going, I should have had a dozen of those by now. Lady, I'm ready to marry you. What did you do?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was so ecstatic, and I was so intrigued. Dalton, how was it that in 3 days this lady figured out what 11 years of technology had not? By then I was age 21. You do the math. A migraine per week, 52 weeks per year, 11 years in a row. I had already lost a year and a half of my life. You
Yeah.
see? So I was ecstatic. And at the same time, I said, how come these guys don't know whatever this lady does?
Mm.
Now, there is a funny part behind that. Um, my migraines went away. I was ecstatic. Now, because we are taught in the entire world that if you have no pain, you're healthy, I thought, I'm healthy. I got no
Yeah.
headache. This is good. So
Right.
guess
Right.
what I did?
Mm.
I quit care.
Oh, sure.
Of course, because I feel good. I feel good. I must be healthy. Why do I need to keep going? Because I feel good, right?
Yeah.
I feel good. I am not well. All right. Dr. Michael Kale, whom I work with, he always used to say, feel good is temporary stimulated. Being well is permanent corrective.
Yeah.
You see the difference?
Yeah.
And so within 3 more months, guess what happened? My migraines came back.
Huh.
So I go back to the lady, and she explains the idea of, yes, we worked enough to get rid of your symptoms. We didn't work enough to finish fixing the problem and making it stable. And so that's when I understand the idea of time is a key element in order to heal. And so there you go. I worked and got rid of my migraines. Everything was fine, no problem. But I was still very intrigued. So I started inquiring more about it. And within less than a year, I changed careers. It became a passion. Engineering was an interest, but helping people, helping sick people, something about doing something with your hands, allow people to get better, feel better, be well. What an awesome thing. Help my people, right?
Yeah.
We heard that story before, help my people. And and so went to chiropractic school, ended up going to life just like you. It's an alma mater. I graduated back in December of 1990. I just told you my age. And so there you go. Now, once I went to chiropractic school, as you know, there's different methods and techniques out there. I didn't know any better, so I tried everything I could. And and then what finally resonated with me was the idea of upper cervical work. Why upper cervical to me? From a not because I'm at upper cervical, the top two bones there's 24. Why should you deal just with two? Well, from just a engineering mindset, if you will, very square thinking, um, more nerves, more chances of hitting a few, more movement, more chances of it moving out of position, And there's the idea of the subluxation, bone out of place, putting pressure on the nerve, interference of mental, and it's stuck, permanency, as BJ Palmer used to say, right? And so I resonated with that idea and I started following in the idea of let's do upper cervical work. One of the leading authorities in upper cervical work back in the 90s was Dr. Michael Kale out of Spartanburg, South Carolina. And he had a research center, multiple satellite clinics, so forth and so on. That really, and so by the time I graduated, I was proficient in that work. I became certified while a student, but um, uh, I wanted to learn more. And so then I ended up going and working with Dr. Michael Kale for about 8 years. Um, and It's been a very steep learning experience. Very good because of what I found this meant to be able to do that we wanted to emulate, and he was very picky, very specific, and that's where the idea of if you're specific, you're going to get better results. I don't
Yeah.
care if you do Gonstead, Thompson, diversified, be the best guy at that particular technique. To me, it was Nietzsche's upper cervical specific. That's what resonated with me, and so I managed to learn all this information. As you know, Dr. Michael Kale was, if you go back a little bit into history, during the BJ Palmer days, um, when BJ figured out that HIO, upper cervical, Nietzsche's, etc., was the hole in one, so to speak. He was not satisfied with figuring that one out. He said, "Can I? How do I prove it?" So the guy back in 1935, he puts out $1 million clinic from 1935
Yeah.
with $1 million worth of equipment, 1935. You do the math. I think somebody figured it out. Correct me if I'm wrong. $2 million of 1935 corresponds to about, think about $54 million of today's money.
Yeah.
Okay, what was happening in 1935 in the Midwest, in Davenport, Iowa?
Dust Bowl. Yeah.
It was actually no the big crash of 1929 had reached the Midwest. They were in dire straits at the time, and yet he put that together. And for 16 years, he did research on the worst of worst cases, okay, um, to figure out is this the right area, which got confirmed, and so forth and so on. And Chess went on to do very well. Um, the right hand man of Dr. B.J. Palmer was no other but a certain Dr. Lyle Sherman, if that name rings a bell to you. Sherman College? Well, Sherman, there you go. Lyle Sherman at the end of the of the research part, I think in the 50s, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not good with dates, decided to then open up his own practice. And being the researcher that the man was, he wanted to go in the United States to the place that had the least amount of mosquito density.
Yeah.
That was that was his parameters. And so the guy ends up finding out that Spartanburg, South Carolina is it. So he ends up opening in South Carolina in Spartanburg. He had at one point the only freestanding clinic in South Carolina at the time. And and so comes out 1964. B.J. Palmer's already passed away. 1964 comes out Dr. Michael Kale, who had just graduated from Palmer and asked to work with Dr. Lau Sherman in Spartanburg. He becomes his associate, stays with him for 4 years, and which was wonderful. Learned a lot of the information that had been gleaned through the research days back from 35 to 51. And Dr. Michael Kale ended up becoming a very successful chiropractor in the South Carolina and Western North Carolina area. And so that's the man I worked with for 8 years. So now I give you a long wing and apologize for
Yeah. No, no, it's great. I mean, there's quite a few points of your story that I'd love to talk about. I'd like to take it back to when you jumped off this diving board. Did you hit your head on the board or the bottom of the
that.
pool?
Yeah,
On
and
the board.
on the board, the diving board was a little bit slick. And
Yeah.
so we had requested if we could get a piece of tire on the top of it, okay, with a rubber would hook up better for your feet. Well, back then they didn't have tubeless tires. They had tires with tubes.
Yeah.
The people misunderstood and they put a piece of tube stretched out on the
Ah,
thing, which made it more slick. So I jump and I'm about to do my thing. I slip, boom, hit my head. Thank goodness I didn't pass out.
yeah.
And so there you go. The rest was a bit of history.
You-
Maybe
you were-
blessing in disguise. I don't know.
yeah, right. Exactly. It set you up for your whole life purpose, huh?
So
It,
that's how it was. But yeah, and so it's been quite a journey ever since.
yeah. 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 Did you know that, like, you had the migraines, but had you known that that was the instance that had created it, or like, did you
No,
find out later?
it
Later.
very much came after the fact. After I started understanding this area, I started looking at this can be trauma induced or something like that. What kind of trauma did I have prior to having my migraines? And I'm going, oh yeah, I remember
Oh, yeah.
falling. I remember hitting my head, and it's like I wonder if that could be the case. Okay, sounds about right. I could be wrong. Could be a bit something different, but it sounds about right.
Right, right. Well, the thing that's fascinating about that is that we're living in a world of people who are in the same situation all the time. I mean, we have 10% of Americans are under chiropractic care today, which, is a great opportunity because 90% of Americans, they have a spine, and so they could be under chiropractic care. But it's just, it's always fascinating to me how these people who I am, these other doctors who I interview, and we have these chiropractic stories. It's always such a long time that they, like yourself, have suffered with something that until they understood chiropractic and really learned about it, uh, realized that chiropractic is a thing that can help.
Well,
So
Dalton is it's statistics show that by the time a patient comes to your office, um, they've had a problem already at least 2 years. So
right,
we tend to see mostly chronic problems, not acute problems. Of course, there's exceptions, but the majority of the time tends to be chronic. So, and they've already tried other options. They tried the medical field. They tried the physical therapy. Sometimes they even gone through surgery. And but but if you approach this from a standpoint of I have a symptom, I need to kill the symptom, but I do not address what caused the symptom to begin with,
right.
we're going to be chasing symptoms all day long for the
Yeah, yeah,
rest of our days. Unfortunately, this is where I came from at the very beginning of our talk is we are taught that if I have no pain, I'm okay. If
right.
I have no pain, I am healthy. That is not exactly the truth. Exactly.
Sure.
And so, and you have to start thinking in terms of if there's a pain, that's a signal. The signal must have a cause. How about we start chasing the cause?
Right.
All right. Using a car analogy, I'm a car guy. Okay. Everybody sees tires that are wearing out fast, weird, and funny. And they're lasting 6,000 miles instead of 15, 20, 40,000 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody thinks we have a tire problem, but nobody sees the
Right.
the wheel alignment that's
That is.
causing the tires to wear out wrong. And even fewer people, and I'm getting technical, I apologize, see the CV joint that broke, that messed up the alignment, that is causing the tires to wear. Keep tracking back, back, back until you find the source of the problem. Address the cause, the problem doesn't have a reason. Does that make
Right.
sense? And if you can make it
Absolutely.
stable, it is permanent. How cool is that?
Well, it's so cool. And here's the thing too, you were talking about this your story. We're seeing the female chiropractor who helped you initially, where, a challenge that I see in our industry is chiropractors continuing the same communication of the medical model, as well as patients just think that way because our society has been conditioned to associate health with being sick or hurt. So
I,
it,
mhm.
it's a really fascinating point to just go, wow, okay, so even though you were able to get relief, you had to come to the realization that, wait, you got to put it together a second time. So uh
Well, Let me give you a little statistic. Um, what do you think the average number of visits is today? You get a new patient in your
12.
office, average number of visits per case. We call it a PVA.
Yeah, PVA 12.
What do you think it is? It's six.
6.
What do you think it was back in the 2000s when HMO was in?
I'm sure it was higher for sure.
It was still six.
Really?
What do you think it was during the Mercedes 80s, where insurance paid everything?
Was it still
It was
6?
still six. What do you
Oh,
think that is?
well, for sure, communication. Absolutely.
Well, what happens around the fifth, sixth visit?
What symptoms start to go away. I mean, chiropractic works.
Exactly. The patient feels better. And if the doctor does not explain that there's a condition, not a pain, then at the end, around the fifth, sixth visit, patient feels better. Doc, you did great. Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah, yeah,
If the
yeah,
patient does not feel better, what happens? Doc, this thing's not for me. Thank you. Bye.
yeah.
And so we are constantly looking for new patients instead of explaining the education, explaining the idea that this is not a pain, it's a condition. Remove the condition, don't remove the pain. If you remove the condition, the pain won't have a reason to be there and it'll be a lot longer lasting.
Yeah.
That's the whole education story behind um, behind just not being able to remove the interference, move the bone, remove the interference, however you want to call it. But is if you cannot make the patient understand, and it worse for upper cervical people, man, we deal with just two bones instead of 24. And we don't even deal with the extremities. Okay, it's like, oh, I'm shooting myself in the foot, and yet how come is it that we can keep a patient for a certain amount of time? We can turn a corrective care into um, wellness or enhancement care, and we have lifetime patients who no longer have to take that medication, don't have to require or rely on things to control pain management. Oh, that's a big deal today. We should manage pain. We should fix the problem that causes pain. I'm sorry, I'm preaching
No,
to the
no, no,
choir.
that's it. But actually, I'm actually very. I'd like to think that I'm very well versed for a student in this area where communication, practice management, as well as just understanding how our bodies work from a
Mhm.
chiropractic lens. And it's you brought up Michael Kale as your mentor, and I just a week ago had Dr. Randy Kale on the podcast.
Mhm.
And
Wonderful guy, and oh man, he's got some stories and some wonderful stories to tell. I
yeah,
bet.
yeah, absolutely. He's fired up. He's got a lot of energy. He's
Very
coming
much
back
so.
out of retirement. So
Yeah,
yeah, he's come
that's
back
a
out of
great thing
retirement.
for our profession. Let me tell you.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, it's incredible to hear the stories that come out of chiropractic, and as you said earlier, there's so many ways to be a chiropractor. Um, you know, looking for particular outcomes. Sometimes there's one thing that works faster than another one. And for patients, there are some techniques that work better for one patient than another. Um, and I part of the reason I put this together is to unite our profession because it seems that there's a lot of this gray area in between, chiropractic works, and I think that sometimes it's kind of like football, where somebody is married to their team and then, people are getting in arguments and fights over things that literally have no attachment to them other than the shirt that they're wearing. So,
Well,
it's
back when you had mavericks in the chiropractic field, you had the Kales, the Sweats, the Gonstedts, and many others. Um, we used to think that you had to be exclusive. You're either this or you're nothing. They
right,
had to think that way, but they all, in their own techniques, uh, developed incredible strides that later on in the 2000 and the 2000 teens, we have finally started to understand in our chiropractic profession that if I know this, but you know that, and we can put it together, what you know may help what I do, and what I
Right.
do may help what you do. And
Right.
so, um, just to go back in history a bit, when Dr. Kale passed away back in 2000, we said, well, how can we continue this niche upper cervical work? Um, and a group of us, particularly Dr. Robert Kessinger out of Missouri, KGR of Missouri at the time, um, decided to learn more and to start to how would I say that, share that with doctor students who wanted to learn this method of getting sick people well. But he and I found the same thing, and many of the other doctors who worked with Dr. K, we found many times that we were lacking certain things. When I came up with a certain listing, an ASL, the other doctor looking at the same films would find it's a PRI, it's a C2 listing. And the other one would come up with yet another listing. And then Dr. K would look at it and said, it's this. I'm like, where did that come from? And we knew he was the reference point. What is it that we missed? And so Dr. Kessinger started looking at other ways of figuring out how do we find a better way to analyze our films to get a better listening to better help our patients. So talking about this inclusiveness, he went to uh, the Blair people who do awesome work as well with incredible fancy films and x-rays, and helped him to get a better understanding of how to look at the upper cervical area. And I'm sure that for other techniques, it can be the same. Thanks to that, we were able to adapt that uh, to our method of work. And after breaking a few eggs, we finally made a bunch of omelets, so to speak,
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
were there. But as a result, we're now able to figure out better ways to analyze our x-rays and to figure out a listing much more accurately and therefore help the patient by being inclusive. I think one of the things that in the upper cervical world, one of our top people nowadays is Dr. Julie Meyer Hunt out of Clearwater, Florida. Um, uh, she put together, along with other people, this DCCJP program, okay, the Diplomate in Craniocervical Junction program, where there's a bunch of upper cervical techniques teaching what they do, so we can better understand what you've got may help the way I can do my work. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right? They need to stop being exclusive. We need to be inclusive. Um, it's not easy because if I'm a BMW guy and you're a Mercedes guy, your Mercedes stinks, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. I
And
do.
God forbid a Lexus guy may show up.
I know. Come on,
I
Alexis
apologize
guy.
for the
No.
analogy. I
Okay.
apologize.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
That's funny.
shouldn't be that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
That's funny. So then, what would when you were learning under Dr. Kale, uh, what did that? What was something that really stood out to you outside of chiropractic? Something that like you learned from Dr. Kale as like I don't know, as a man or something
you know,
about him that you really took away.
the man lived, breathed, talked, ate, digested chiropractic. From the moment he woke up to the moment he went to bed, he was all chiropractic. And and when you have that level of focus, you really can go further into your understanding by sometimes reading the same book over and over and over. He claims to have read volume 18, the subluxation specific, the adjustment specific from BJ Palmer. He came to have read it, don't quote me again on that, 68 times. Now, you're either very dense that you can't understand it, or every time you read it, you're catching a little something else.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome. I think that's awesome. Have you noticed how you watch a movie and you catch the gist of it and it was fun? You
Yeah.
watch it the fifth time, you're still catching a little detail that maybe you've never caught the first four times.
Right, right.
That's how focused this man was, and it made me understand that, okay, if I want to be good, I need to sweat the details. in everything that I do. Do not leave a corner uncovered.
Right.
That was one thing that really struck me with Dr. Kale. The man wanted to be specific. He wanted to follow in BJ Palmer's footsteps and Lyle Sherman's footsteps, and I'm very thankful for him for having to force me to get in line to learn that with utmost intensity, call it that way.
Right. Right.
And we
Right.
continue that with the knee chest upper cervical specific group, the KCCS, with Dr. Kessinger, Dr. Mike Anderson, where we teach. I am one of their instructors. Have been since 2001, where we teach this procedure either online, in person. We just came back in March from teaching a group of British people, Nichesa Proserico, in England, just north of London. It's wonderful to see that things are starting to expand and
Yeah.
people are hungry to learn about chiropractic.
It's
Proserico chiropractic, other chiropractic, full spine chiropractic. The idea is it doesn't matter what method you use. It doesn't matter whether you're doing the Lexus, the BMW, the Mercedes, the whatever. You're
right.
using a good vehicle to go help sick people. That is the
Right.
main thing. But now, do not try to put a Lexus engine into a Mercedes. That's where you got to start being a little careful. Yes, there's inclusiveness, but there's certain things that you have to stay true to your method.
Mm.
So those are the things that Dr. Kale really instill in us. Um, my staff calls me a gnome because I show up everywhere. And so, but yes, you have to, you know. Do you, you know, what is more important to a patient than first impression? When a patient walks into your office, Dalton, what's the first thing they see? Do they see weeds or do they see a clean parking lot?
Right.
Do they see the plants in front of the office halfway dead because they're hungry or because they don't have any water, or they see some vibrant plants?
Mhm.
Okay, is your sign clean? Are your windows clean? When they walk, the first impression is so important. You
Right.
see, so you have therefore you will see me first thing in the morning. Watch, are there any weeds in my parking lot?
Mhm.
Sweat details, not just in chiropractic, in everything that you do.
Right. So what is it? Is this when you're teaching? Do you have any mentees that you're teaching now?
Man, we have, like I said, many of those Sherman students because I'm so close to Sherman. We work only 45 minutes from Sherman, so that's the common sense thing. Many of them come to our office every so often, um, and quite a few doctors as well throughout the country. Sherman is the obvious for me, but Dr. Anderson, who's also closer to life, is more related, and I believe his wife, Dr. Teresa Anderson, is an instructor at your school. So they're more related to that area. Um, but again, we can be national, we can be local, we can be international. And so if it's not that I know more and I'm more special than anybody else. I think anybody can do my job even better than me. It's just that I've been doing this long enough that many times I happen to know a bit more than you do just because I've been doing it a little bit longer than you have. That's the only reason. And,
Right.
and if I find that knowledge is not worth anything unless you can forward it to someone else. You have to. Knowing, having the knowledge, not doing anything about it, I think that's the closest thing to a sin. Okay,
Yeah, totally.
you have to be able to impart whatever you know to other people, so they won't have to make the mistakes you have to make in order to learn and be successful and
Right.
help more people.
Totally. I totally agree. I think that it's this profession is at to me, it just seems like we're at like the precipice of something that feels like it's going to explode right now. I mean, thankfully, we went through COVID as a world where the world started to question what was happening. You know, it was a shift for so many people. I mean, not only in healthcare, but people, quitting their jobs, or starting a business, or taking on new aspects of life, that it almost gave a lot of people independence. And I guess equally there are some people who are still walking around in masks and driving in masks in their car by themselves. So people have equally been, I'm sure, from traumatized in some way. But to bring it back to chiropractic, like, people are very open, no matter what I feel people believe politically. They're like, when it comes to health, they're a little bit more open-minded to go, maybe what was happening wasn't the truth, or wasn't the best choice that I could have made for myself. Maybe what was happening, or what I'd like to continue to do now, isn't really what's great for my family. Like, thankfully we have a lot of incredible chiropractors in the Make America Healthy movement, and really trying to create change for our profession. I know in Nevada, they just passed a law that chiropractors will now be paid equally to medical doctors if they're providing the same type of care, which is cool. I mean, I just think we're in such a cool place to, at least for me and my generation coming into chiropractic, having being able to follow in the footsteps of men like yourself, who've really set the tone for us to have this moment, and for Dr. Kales, BJ Palmer, I mean, there's so many chiropractors even today who are alive that are making an
who are,
incredible difference.
who are
So,
doing wonderful. And you said something very important, Dalton, is that yes, we're in a position where we might be. What you're trying to say is we are in a position where we might be able to be taken more seriously than we have in the past. That's essentially the idea.
yeah,
But we have to honor that opportunity by being serious about what we do.
right.
Because it's, oh, I want equality. Yes, but you want equality. Are you up to the task?
Totally.
Uh-huh.
Totally.
So if you do get certain unusual cases in your office, are you up to the task? Did you learn as much as you could about your method? Are you good at what you do enough that you can take care of this, that you can say, yes, I want to take this case? Um, and will you do your best, or will you do just good enough? Is good enough good enough? Or will you give your, we're not asking you to be perfect, but we're asking you to be excellent. Does that make sense? Okay. And so um, doing your best by, number one, knowing the most in your community, in your town, in your county, in your state, in your country. Why not?
Why not?
All right. That and so um, when you say my state requires me to take 18 hours of continuing education per year. Well, I take 100.
Yeah.
Why? Because I want to know.
Yeah.
Because if knowledge replaces fear, sounds so stereotypical, but it's true. If you know more, you can understand more. If you understand more, you can deliver with confidence, and you know that you know that you know. That's important. So yes, if we have the opportunity, will we take it? Okay. And so some people say, can we be lucky? Well, luck is what? It's a combination of what? Preparation and opportunity.
Hmm. There you go.
That's all it is. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that's my little like this way of seeing things.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I'm curious to know, you've been in South Carolina ever since you started to
North
work.
Carolina. North
Okay,
Carolina.
North Carolina,
Mhm.
ever since you
Yes,
started.
I'm in so I started in South Carolina and with Dr. Michael Kale, first in Spartanburg, the upstate of South Carolina, then just a little bit further west in Greenville, South Carolina, And so Dr. Kale, as I said, had multiple satellite offices. And at one point, I happened to be the only doctor who had a North Carolina license. And he happened to have two offices in North Carolina, one in Tryon, just on the state line, and one up the mountain in Hendersonville, about 25 minutes south of Asheville in western North Carolina. So he asked me to temporarily man the office in Hendersonville because the doctor had left. I did, and I fell in love with the area, and so never left. Been here since 1993. Fell in, they call it here God's country, and I agree. And so yeah, been here ever since. Love it. Western Carolina Mountains, Blue Ridge Mountains, beautiful area. And but people need help everywhere. It's not a matter of location. It's a matter of how can we feel a need, you know, find a need and fill it.
What would you say right now? We had a question, we talked about it earlier, but what do you feel like you'd like to see in the profession? Like having, you said 35 or 37 years experience?
35. 35.
30, 35 years of
Mhm.
experience. You've seen chiropractic, you've lived chiropractic through so many changes. And understanding where we are today, where do you want to see chiropractic head, and how do you think the best way for us to get there is?
You know, it makes me think. It makes me think of a case we just had. I think we discussed it back a few weeks ago. Um, had I seen this case when I was first starting, I wouldn't know what to do. And as a matter of fact, I found myself in cases like that. And thank goodness, Dr. Kale, other doctors were also able to help me to figure out an answer about how to help these people. But um, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, we started a little lady, 19, 20 years old. Um, a couple 3 years ago, she had a fall injury, soccer, I forget, and ended up with a concussion. Develops headaches, lack of energy, blah, blah, blah. Her father, who's a urologist, he looks for, just like any father would, for any possible way to help his child. So he takes her to different specialists, goes to local specialists here, goes to Duke, and they find out that she has an Arnold Chiari malformation. As you know, where the bottom of the brain, the cerebellopeduncles, are dropping down into the foramen magnum. And so, and they said, this is what's causing the problem, and we need to operate. So they did an Arnold Chiari malformation decompression surgery, where in her case, they opened up the foramen magnum, made it larger, and they also cut portion of the atlas. So the right posterior portion of atlas, the right posterior arch, gone. She came out well from that surgery, symptom wise. But lo and behold, a few months ago, she has another fall, she has another concussion. All her symptoms come back much worse the first time around. Now, if you read up, if you investigate, if you research a bit, and we do a lot of teaching on that in the KCCS on what I call the medullary, what we call the medullary lock, what locks the medulla in the ring of atlas axis and the foramen magnum. Okay, you find out that there's a bunch of ligaments and muscles, etc. I won't go into the details of that. They kind of work like elastic bands to prevent the lower brainstem from banging against some bony structures. Well, that was cut, so there's instability now.
Yeah.
So it just took a little bit of a hit, and everything came back around. Her symptoms, and she ends up in my office because she's just took a job next door to us at a computer repair store. But her problem is light sensitivity. It makes her worse, and she works on computers every day. She gets migraines all the time. She has so little energy she cannot walk her own dog. 20 years old. Imagine how the rest of her life is going to be. So she comes into my office and she tells me other care situations, so forth and so on. I look at her, I'm going, Atlas is the main thing that needs to be adjusted. I can't touch that thing. Right? It's already been, for lack of, for not lack of being specific, it's been torn into already. How do you do? How do you work it? Well, in Spanish, I'm French, but I happen to speak Spanish. In Spanish, they say, a falta de pan, tortilla. So if you don't have any bread, you eat tortillas. If you
Yeah,
cannot
right.
get a door, you try the kitchen door. If you don't have a kitchen door, you try the window, but you're going to get into that house. Just so happens that C2 was also involved. And so I cannot work on C1 as the primary door, but C2 is a door. So we started working with this lady through C2 because C2 is intact. That is the wonderful thing that we chiropractors have always as our partner, as our aid, as our wonderful help. It's called innate. Thank goodness for innate, because I worked on an area that's not ideal. In spite of that, we're still able to clear the interference, even though it's not the primary way to work on it. And in spite of that, 3 weeks later, the lady's walking her dog, excuse me.
Yeah, yeah.
Migraines, she has not had a migraine in 2 weeks after having one every day. She got her job back. She just started working uh, just Monday, yesterday. Okay. And what is that worth to this lady? How she has something to look forward to for the rest of her life, in spite of her injuries, in spite of everything that's been done to her. Now, um, that's tough, and tough for what she went through, tough for the journey she had to go through, for a father who, personally, I don't think was the right solution to do to her this type of surgery, and yet he didn't know any better. He's trying to help his own daughter.
Right.
Wonders of innate is that in spite of permanent injury, this type of surgery, all right, and this type of condition carry, the body will still try. Innate will still try to repair as much as she can if you give her a chance. That's what's so
Right.
wonderful. Okay. That's what gets me up in the morning. I do not like to see people hurt. Okay. So in the mornings, what can I do to help one more person, two more people? This lady has been just a wonderful case. I'm very, very fortunate to have that what we do happens to be the answer to what she has, and that she's able to respond accordingly. And now to go back to your end, to your question is, what do I look forward to in the future? Or where do we go from here looking forward? What's my way to look at things? This may be very personal to me, Dalton, but being a foreigner in a foreign land, my family is far away from me. You see, so my parents, they split their time between France and Guatemala, Central America. France has a few chiropractors, not many of them very specific. Guatemala has this many chiropractors, and I can't help them. They're too far away. I can't. And so my thing is, what if I could reproduce myself? What if I can help what if I can help students and doctors become better at what they do, they have more drive to learn and help more people, and we can reproduce this enough that we have more people in different areas, so that one day maybe there will be a chiropractor in Guatemala who will be able to help my sister, my parents, my nephews and nieces, or somebody more specific. There's no one who does knee chest work in France right now. Luckily, we're now starting to have some people in Europe, especially England, Scotland as well. But Spain, Italy, French doesn't have any yet. Okay, I'm missing a few, I'm sure. Okay,
Yeah.
but we need. It doesn't matter. I'm talking only knee chest, but there's other types of techniques, and we just want them to be so good and so specific that they're going to help more people. We need
Yeah.
to be able to produce ourselves so we can pass the information along. We can pass the experience along, if you want to call it that way. That would make me very happy. If you know something and you're very good at it and you teach somebody else and you happen to be from Ohio, you cannot be in Ohio because you're in Florida, but because you taught somebody and that person went back to Ohio where your sister lives, and because of you taught this guy, now he's able to help your sister. Makes you feel a bit better, does it not?
Right.
That's my limited view of things, but we have to be we have to be what we do is serious. We're not dealing with Walmart. We're dealing with people's health, and we have to be up to the task. That's
Absolutely.
that's what I think.
I agree. I agree so much. I feel the same way, like about my parents. I know that thankfully I have a family of. My uncle's a chiropractor, and he's been in the game for quite a long time as well. Um, uh, I don't know if you know his name's Dr. Fred DiDomenico. You familiar with him? So, Dr. DiDomenico, I was adjusted in the womb. I was going to be a breech baby, and he adjusted my mom, and I flipped on a table right after the
Isn't that
adjustment.
cool?
Yeah,
Isn't that cool?
yeah, yeah. So
Incredible.
I
Incredible.
know.
And
So
that's the difference between you not having any trauma in this area versus you may have had a lot more trauma in this area during the delivery process.
I know.
Already you started with a big advantage. Huge for you, you know?
Huge for me. Huge for me. And so this is the thing in Las Vegas. There's not many chiropractors that we know, and you would think that since it's such a big city that there's millions of people there, that there would be, but there are chiropractors, not to say that they're not, but I feel the same drive for people that live in different places in my own family, even within the United States. And
Mhm.
so, there are these, again, like in the United States, 90% of people aren't seeing a chiropractor regularly. I mean, if you think about that, I mean, we have probably the most advanced regulations to be a chiropractor compared to, you go to other countries, they're not allowed to take x-rays. And even, some governing bodies in the United States are trying to take away x-rays for chiropractors. They're just different. In Australia, you can't adjust adolescents under 12 years old. There was one time when one kid had one thing, and then now everybody has to conform to whatever happened. So it's like I absolutely am aligned with your vision to bring this out to the world, and from my perspective, American chiropractors are leading the way to start to create change in these other countries where they're not having BJ Palmers. They're not having people who they're not having these titans that are walking all over teaching everybody about the principle. They're not having even chiropractic philosophy taught to them. They're understanding joints from a medical model. And the cool thing about what you're doing as well is, there's no way that you're an instructor and also mentoring under Dr. Kale, but just your 35 years of experience, you're teaching the principle. I mean, it's obvious to see in our interaction today that, like, there's no way that the people you teach aren't walking out of that room believing that chiropractic, or knowing that chiropractic is the answer to so much of the pain and suffering that people are walking with every day. And you speak about lifestyle very clearly and very easily, and this is how I see the change happening in the world to help people like your family in these countries, where it's like, hey, this is a healthcare system that has been around for, I mean, officially in the United States for, just over 100 years. But I mean, people have been working on each other's bodies and spines since the dawn of time. This is human connection, which is why it's such an amazing profession to choose, because it takes away all the boundaries of the system that we find ourselves in today. And this is where we see my generation and younger not having children. For the first time in America, 40-year-old women have higher birth rates than 20-year-old women. There's uh just a desire and a need for human contact in a way that is healing. And I think that as we create more visibility in the chiropractic profession, that these these behaviors that we see will subside and change. Thank God
I
for the
sure hope so.
internet.
I sure hope so. And the key for that is going to always be education. You, if we have the best kept secret in healthcare, but it's still a secret, it will die.
Yeah.
We don't want that, do we?
No.
And so yes, we have to educate, but we have to know how to educate. That's
Right.
the key. We have to
Right.
know how to educate. It's not just a shout, "Oh, chiropractic, chiropractic." No, there's a right way and a wrong way to shout it. If we do it right, people are going to start noticing. Um, People are starting to understand the idea that pain is one thing, a problem is another thing, and one causes the other. They're starting to grasp that idea. We need to latch on to that idea and make them understand that the best doctor in town happens to be their own body. We just got to
Yeah.
tap into it and make it work. Simple as that,
Totally.
right? But
Totally.
there's a way and method to do it, and if you do it right, yes, you're going to help a lot of people. You're going to be successful. You're going to have a good lifestyle. Uh, that's the secondary thing, but it's a wonderful thing to have. Okay, but you are going to help more people that way if you're able to educate your patients properly. And there is a right and unfortunately a wrong way. A lot of us approach it the wrong way. We have to approach it from a patient standpoint, and 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 make them sway the bar from the pain model to the condition model to the health model to the wellness model.
Right.
That's the There you go.
Yeah, I think that the way that I'm teaching people to do this is being a self-empowerment coach first. I think that, so many times, I've come to be with incredibly intelligent doctors, and seeing some of them interact with patients, you just see the patient's eyes glaze over, because a lot of the times they don't care about the same things that we're nerds, spine geeks about. They want to know, how can I pick up my granddaughter? Like, what does this mean for the rest of my life? Do I have, people have financial issues, like, well, I don't have enough money to support myself, but I can barely walk right now. Like, I don't think I'm going to die soon, but my family doesn't have the means to take care of me. Like, this is the conversation to me that is most important for chiropractors to understand when communicating to their patients, because I think that so far as a student, this is not what we're learning. And I mean, and believe me, I'm learning a lot outside of school, more so than I am inside of school.
Mhm.
But for me, my part of my purpose is creating this bridge to help each other communicate well in a way that people want to live. It'd be like a gym owner. Somebody comes in to the gym and they want their summer body. It's February. They just want to come in for the summer body. They work real hard for a couple months, and then they go drink and eat and do all the things and lose the summer body throughout the summer. And now that person goes away because they realize it was such a hard work just for them to lose it. But the gym owner made, a few $100 for a couple months of membership. But, if the gym owner was able to explain how all these aspects of, well, if you're a female, you want to become pregnant, you want to have high nervous system function, you want to have a healthy lifestyle, like, you want to have strong legs and live longer, like, it's, all these direct correlations to strength and longevity, then the gym owner could have uh, a, a person and be making an impact in his community to make a healthier community. And by way of that, now the gym owner also benefits because he's got a business and he's running a business as well. But, obviously the purpose is to build a strong community, and the benefit is, the monetary income for his gym.
Very true.
So I like that analogy with chiropractic, because I believe this is our purpose as well. Like, hey, this is a healthcare system that, as you said, is a secret, and it's not awesome that it's a secret. So I'm curious, how are you telling people about chiropractic, and what, in your opinion, is the best way to share the chiropractic message?
There's many ways, but as I said before, you have to come up from a standpoint of where's the patient at when they come to your office. Come with a symptom. You then need to make the patient understand that this this symptom has a cause. That cause has a past. It came from somewhere.
Mm.
It has a present, what you experience today. And unfortunately, it will have a future if you don't do something about it.
Right.
So, on the one hand, you have to give people hope. What you do is the answer to what they have, and we hope that it is. But on the other hand, also make people understand that there's a thing called fear of the future, meaning what happens if you don't get this thing corrected? What happens if you do not um, uh, maintain this and stay ahead of the problem? Okay, we know why is arthritis called degenerative disc disease. Degenerative means progressive. It does get worse with time. Why disease? Because nothing happens unless you do something about it. Correct?
Yeah.
So if you can make people understand hope, fear the future, and you play ping pong between the two of them, now they're going to understand that you've got two roads. You don't know anything about it. This is where you're going. If you do something about it, this is where you're going to go. Once you get to that destination, then you got two options. Once you get the problem fixed, what will you do to prevent it from happening again? And prevent other problems from happening down the road. Stay healthy, wellness, or you go down the other road where you say, I don't know anything about it. And you wonder why a year and a half, 5 years, 10 years down the road, the problem came back. And so I go back to education. And so we have a method, and I do use a company that helps me understand better. Having a passion is one thing. Being able to show that passion and education in a 1, 2, 3 ABC method is another thing.
Right.
Now, I happen to be a very shy person. Now, people don't think I am, but I am very shy. So I don't know what to say to the patient. And so I'm going, hello, Mr. Patient, how you doing? Oh, you're off today. Let's get your choice. Boom, boom. I'll see you next time. Do you think I'm going to be very successful if I do that? Probably not. But if I make them understand your pain has a reason, we need to figure out the reason and the cause. We need to correct the cause, and we need to maintain the problem and prevent it from happening again. You will be healthy, and it's not only help your problem get rid of it and prevent it from happening again, it's going to also help other health issues from happening. It's going to prevent that. That is definition of health. The actual definition of health is, if you look it up, is the ability of the body to adapt to the environment. That's a definition of health. Once your body is unable to adapt to the environment, you go from a state of ease to a state of dis-ease. And if you stay in a state of dis-ease long enough, you get disease.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so there's ways of making people understand that. One of the simplest ways, believe it or not, is the ANS chart. Such a simple thing. But you say, this nerve goes to this heart. If we block the nerve, do you think the heart's going to work as good? No. Now that sounds so simple. That's fifth grade level. But
Yeah.
it's true.
It's true.
But it's true. Okay. And you have a beautiful carpet. You got no battery. You're not going home.
Nope.
It's true, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
It's as simple as that. Okay.
yeah,
And
yeah,
what will happen if your heart doesn't work well? Will you be able to play pickleball? Probably not, because your heart's not functioning well. Will you be able to take long trips and take stress and accept stress? Not as good as ever. And do that for 15, 20, 25 years. Could it cause some further down the road problems? A ripple effect on the lake, right? Make people understand that. That's the fear the future portion. But now let's say, how about let's make the brain talk to the heart? How about they can talk to each other?
yeah.
Do you think this guy might work a little bit better? Yes. Do you think that you might be able to play pickleball? Yes. Do you think you might be able to go play with your grandkids 25 years down the road? Yes.
Mhm.
And suddenly that's the hope portion. All right. So that's how we do. So I have used a company to help me with that, um, Aligned or AMC, Aligned Mentoring Chiropractors. And so, and they have helped me put an ABC system together to make people understand that from a pain, there's a cause. From the cause, there's a correction. And if we can do that, there's many different methods out there to do that. The idea is always the same behind it. Um, this one happens to work very well for me and has throughout the years, and I've been very, very pleased with them. And so it has helped me to be able to show my passion with words so people understand what I do. Number one, they get to like me. Number two, they get to value what I do. They get to respect what I do. They get to stay. They get to pay. They get to refer. I think that's called a practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
And
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
and then you start all over with the next patient and the next patient and the next patient, and suddenly you got something that's working in your town. You see,
Absolutely. Yeah.
um, that hence I always go back to the word education, but that's a very generic term. How do you educate your patients? You have to have a method. This is
Right.
why I always say you must have two techniques in your office in order to make it fly. You have to have your chiropractic technique. You better be the best at what you do in your community. But you have to have a management technique. How do you manage your business? How do you manage your staff? How do you manage your patients?
Mhm.
All right. So that when you gel those two together, then things are wonderful. Good chiropractic, bad management, you close your doors eventually. Did you know that 82% of chiropractors struggle to pay bills today?
Yo, I know that.
82%. I like to be part of the 18. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Okay. Um, I don't know if I'm correct in this statistic. I believe that 50% of chiropractors within 5 years are no longer practicing the profession.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you come out with crazy loans nowadays, don't you? Okay. And
yeah.
now the opposite is or works well, but is not very good. What happens if you have a good management system? You know how to manage your patients, your practice, etc., but you don't have a very good technique. Yeah, you can make it fly, but it doesn't bode well for the future of the profession. You're
Absolutely.
going to be a pain. You're going to work on pain, but people are not going to have the long term effects of chiropractic. What if you could have both? You have a good chiropractic technique, you're good at it, whatever you chose, and you have a good management technique. You know how to educate. Now you can rock your town, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Well, they don't teach really much. There's no way that they're teaching anything remotely close to business in school. And this is the deal, right? People either want to apprentice somewhere, and maybe they apprentice with a chiropractor who's an incredible at a technique. But I know chiropractors who are some of the best in the world, and they have very poor business habits and they're not thriving in business. And like you said, the opposite can also be true. You can have a totally personality based practice and have very minimal clinical outcomes, but people love your energy. So, there's everything in between also, I part of what I'm creating is a business mastery and communication in chiropractic. I mean, for me, people ask me frequently, what am I plan to do once I'm done with chiropractic school? I'm just finishing my first year, so I have way too long to really be thinking about what could happen, because as we are on this podcast now, I'm looking to bridge all these connections and networks and bring people together all over the world. This is what we're doing. Later this week we have a chiropractor in Costa Rica who'll be on the podcast, or actually he's invited me to his podcast with Dr. Randy Kale as well. So hey, we just we've got an opportunity here to really make a significant impact right now. And I thank you so much for being a part of it.
It's my
How
pleasure.
can how can there's chiropractors and students who watch this uh, podcast, and in the future they'll refer back to this as well. So how can they learn from you? One, and like, where would they go? Are there seminars? How does it work? How can
Several
they
things
connect?
you can do. Number one, look up kcucs.com. That's the group that I'm with. Number two, you're welcome to contact me either at c1c2 specific9 at gmail.com, or you can contact me, text me 828-329-6656. That is my personal cell. And make sure you identify yourself, because I get a lot of crazy calls and crazy texts that don't know where they're coming from. If you identify yourself, I will answer. If not, I will erase it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but on the contrary, we are here to help. And I keep saying this. I made a lot of mistakes in my professional career, and it helped me learn. But a good person learns from their mistakes. An excellent person learns from the mistakes of others, so they don't have to make. So if I can help those people not make the mistakes I had to make in order to go forward, then more power to them. More power to them. More power to you. You know, that's what we're here for.
Well, thank you so much. Hey, you've given us so much golden material that we can mull over and watch again and again. Is there any one thing that is coming to your mind that you'd like to leave us with?
Do not forego your education, but take it with a chiropractic approach. If you look up chiropractic neurology today, neurology, the way it works, is validating our chiropractic philosophy. So don't forego this neurology thing. You find out that innate is everywhere. Dr. Kessinger is excellent at simplifying neurology into bite-sized pieces that makes you say, yeah, no wonder that makes sense. Okay, just remember, what is anatomy? The way things look in the body. What's physiology? The way things work in the body. What's pathology? The way things work in the body when they're not working right. You start understanding this neurology and physiology, neurophysiology business, you start saying that, yeah, innate is everywhere into this thing. And so, understanding neurology, you'll become a beacon of knowledge to your community. People will come to you to better to understand and to be helped. That's the main thing.
Yeah,
So do not forego your knowledge, but use it with a chiropractic mind, not just a mind.
right.
And I leave you with that.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time today. Um, we'll definitely, potentially in the future have another one. That's all right with you.
Be glad to. Be
Yeah.
glad to. It'll be my pleasure. I
Yeah.
can't wait to see how this progresses and how your network starts going and going right, left, and how everything starts bringing people together from different walks of life in the chiropractic field for with the ultimate goal of how do we better help our patients. That's the main
Absolutely.
thing.
Well, hey, I could use some help. So if you know chiropractors that, like yourself, are making an impact in the profession, we'd love to have them on. And if we
I
can
will be
connect.
glad to give you some names and Some of them come to mind already: Dr. Jared Wayland, Dr. Robert Kessinger, of course, Dr. Julie Meyer Hunt, evidently, Dr. Scott Rosa, Dr. Todd Osborne, who's an Atlas orthogonal chiropractor, very good. He and his daughter have a practice in Chattanooga, Tennessee, just north of you,
Yeah.
doing excellent, excellent work. And there's many others, but those are the first that come to mind right away. So,
All right. Well, we'll have to get them on. So,
absolutely.
all right. Thank you so much, Dr.
My
Dallies.
pleasure. Thank you very much. Good luck. Thanks.
Thanks.